Imagine a world where democracy, this idea we celebrate so much, is seen as a dangerous joke. Plato, one of history's greatest minds, didn't just doubt it, he despised it. And what if I told you he predicted the exact problems we face today? Chaotic governments, incompetent leaders, people driven by emotions, not reason. Sound familiar? Welcome to the nightmare Plato foresaw. This isn't a theoretical debate, it's a punch to the gut of our political reality. Why would a philosopher from 2,400 years ago hate our government? The answer will surprise you, and maybe make you mad. Plato lived in an Athens that prided itself on being the cradle of democracy, but he watched that system crumble. The people sentenced his mentor Socrates to death for corrupting the youth. For Plato, that was the final proof. Democracy is ruled by ignorance, not wisdom. He compared politics to a ship. Would you let an inexperienced captain take the helm just because he's popular? Of course not, but that's what we do in elections. We pick the best talkers, not the best thinkers. Plato's critique cuts deep. He said democracy becomes a mess because it treats all votes as equal. The philosopher E.S. and the ignoramus E.S. It's like letting a drunk and a surgeon decide together on an operation. The result? Crises, corruption, dumb decisions. Look around. How many politicians do you admire? How many actually understand economics, justice, or war? Plato would say, very few. And the worst part? We put them there. Here's the core issue. For Plato, democracy is the government of appetites, not reason. It fuels demagogues who promise what they can't deliver. Athens fell into that trap. Think about how campaigns today are built on empty promises and personal attacks. Plato saw this as a symptom of decline. When truth loses to spectacle, collapse is just a matter of time. But he didn't stop at criticism. He proposed a radical solution: the government of philosophers. Wise kings, trained their whole lives to rule. Sounds absurd. Maybe. But think about how doctors study for years before operating. Why don't leaders need the same preparation? Plato believed only those who grasp the truth can guide others. And today, are we ruled by the best or the slickest? Here's the kicker. Plato didn't hate freedom. He hated the illusion of freedom. A democracy where the masses are swayed by slogans and social media is an free. It is enslaved to its own passions. He predicted that without real education, the people become hostages to tyrants disguised as saviors. Look at history. How many democracies turned into dictatorships because the people cheered for their own demise? And the scariest part? He nailed it. Our system is riddled with flaws Plato diagnosed millennia ago. Leaders elected for charisma, not competence. Debates reduced to shouting matches. Policies made to please, not to work. Are we doomed to repeat Athens' mistakes? Or is there still time to heed Plato's warning? The answer starts with an uncomfortable question. Do you really believe we are on the right track? Plato saw democracy as a theater where the worst actors steal the show. And he had a name for them: sophists. They were the influencers of ancient Greece, masters at manipulating words, not seeking truth. Sound familiar? Swap sophists for career politicians. And you've got our scene. They don't govern for the people. They govern to stay in power. Plato called this the art of seeming, not being. He had a brutal metaphor. Democracy is like a sick body choosing its own poison. Instead of seeking a doctor, it elects whoever promises the most candy, even if it makes the illness worse. Look at the budget deficits, endless wars, ignored crises. For Plato, these are symptoms of a system that rewards the short term. We vote for whoever gives us crumbs today, even if it means starvation tomorrow. And here's the hardest hit. Plato said democracy inevitably breeds tyranny. When the people tire of chaos, they cry for a savior, and that savior, once in power, becomes the oppressor. History's full of examples. Hitler was elected, Mussolini too. And how many others rose with promises of order only to bury freedom? Plato wasn't being pessimistic. He was being realistic. Why does this happen? Because at its core, democracy assumes everyone is equally capable of governing. And for Plato, that's a dangerous lie. Governing requires virtue, knowledge, self-control, things that don't come with a vote. You don't become a pianist by pushing a button. Why would politics be different? As long as we treat elections like reality shows, we're set up to fail. Plato proposed a system based on merit. Instead of parties, an elite of the wise. Instead of campaigns, decades of study. Utopian? Maybe. But look at technocrats. Experts solving real problems while politicians bicker. There's a lesson there. Knowledge beats rhetoric. But in our democracy, who has time to listen to experts? The worst part is, Plato predicted our apathy too. He knew that when politics turns into a circus, people give up. Ever thought, voting doesn't matter, it'll all stay the same? Congrats, you've grasped what Plato feared. A system that pushes away the best and attracts the worst. Where honesty is stupidity and corruption is strategy. Is there a way out? There's still hope. Plato believed in education as the antidote. Not just any education, one that builds citizens, not just workers. Where you learn ethics, logic, the value of the common good. Our current system churns out diplomas, not wisdom. And until that changes, we'll be at the mercy of those who play dirty. The question remains, are you willing to demand more? Or will you keep being a spectator? Plato didn't want to destroy freedom. He wanted to save it from its own trap. His republic wasn't an authoritarian nightmare but a call to responsibility. Imagine a world where leaders are trained like surgeons, decades of study before touching the scalpel. Utopian? Maybe. But what we have now is far from better. He saw politics as a sacred mission, something that demands more than empty speeches. Today, we elect whoever shouts the loudest, not who thinks the deepest. Plato would say we're trading the future for spectacle. And the worst part? We do it with our eyes wide open as if there's no choice. But there is. There always is. The core of Plato's critique is simple. Democracy without virtue turns into anarchy. When the wise and the fool's votes count the same, the outcome is predictable. Look around. How many political decisions are made on impulse, not reason? How often do people cheer for their own ruin? History repeats itself, and we, stubborn as ever, ignore the lessons. But he didn't propose a dictatorship. He proposed a system where power comes from merit, not smooth talk, where leaders are chosen for ability, not charisma. Sounds radical, only because we've gotten used to mediocrity. We accept that politics is a dirty game instead of demanding it be a noble service. Plato challenges that resignation. Here's the problem. Our democracy rewards the worst instincts. Campaigns are marketing wars, not debates of ideas. Politicians sell dreams, not solutions, and we buy them, because it's easier to believe in miracles than face realities. Plato saw this coming. He called it the triumph of appearance over essence, and he nailed it. His solution was clear: radical education, not just books, but character building. Citizens who think, not just parrot. Leaders who serve, not self-serve. Sounds naive? Only to those who've given up on change. Plato believed sick societies can be healed, but they have to admit they're sick first. The challenge is ours. We can laugh off the Republic as a philosophical fairy tale, or we can see it as a mirror. Our democracy is full of cracks Plato diagnosed centuries ago. Ignoring them doesn't make them go away. It just makes the fall worse. The question isn't whether the system is perfect. It's whether we're evolving or regressing. Don't kid yourself. Plato didn't have all the answers. But he asked the right questions. Why do we accept mediocre leaders? Why do we treat politics like entertainment? Why do we vote with our gut, not our head? Until we answer these, we'll stay stuck in the same cycle. And the worst part? Plato already knew how this ends. The way out isn't abandoning democracy, it's maturing it, demanding transparency, valuing knowledge, stopping the worship of smooth talkers and starting to respect those who do things right. It's not about left or right, it's about sanity versus madness. Plato gave us the map. The question is whether we've got the guts to follow it. In the end, it all comes down to a choice. Keep going as is, pretending we don't see the flaws, or face the discomfort of change. Plato chose the second path, even knowing few would follow. His question echoes today. Do we want a government of the wise or a circus of fools? The answer, as always, is in our hands. Time will tell if we've learned the lesson, or if, like Athens, we'll need to fall to understand. Plato didn't hate democracy out of spite. He hated it out of love for the truth. And maybe that's the biggest lesson. Only those who face reality survive, not those who run from it. The rest is just details. If you liked this video, consider subscribing and share your thoughts in the comments.